Final Fantasy. Hey guys, Lightane here, and this is the first part of my Final Fantasy trilogy, and I'm going to be taking you on a magical adventure through a fantastical land called Japan. Japan in the 80s was a very busy time and place, and video games were a very popular pastime amongst people of all ages. These arcade games eventually found their way into our homes, and everything changed. Atari had the monopoly in video games for a very long time, until the gaming crash in '86. From those ashes, new developers emerged, notably Nintendo, and a whole new way of gaming was introduced. Most of the games on Nintendo were level-based, not score-based, where games had narrative and progression. Makers of these games were also fond of things like Dungeons & Dragons and tried to make a video game version of it. Dragon Quest was the first to really make this a reality and started the genre known as an RPG. Around this time, a company called Square was also making games, but they weren't selling well. So Hironobu Sakaguchi, which I probably butchered that name, thought that the next game was going to be his last, so he was going to make it the best he could. He went all out with this game, trying to create an epic fantasy that would be his final swan song. He called this Final Fantasy, and boy did that name turn around to bite him in the butt. Final Fantasy was a big hit and success in Japan, and when it was localized for America, when the Super Nintendo was out, it still sold well enough for Japan to realize that Westerners liked this style of game. This success meant that the team could create another game, and the rest is history. In Final Fantasy, you play as the 4 Heroes of Light, in a world that resembles a medieval one. This world has aspects of a more advanced society like floating cities, but the people have lived in peace and prosper for many hundreds of years. This is because of the 4 elemental crystals that keep fire, water, earth, and air in check. People have been harnessing the power of those crystals in order to make advancements in society, like the Lufarians use the wind crystal to make the floating city. Things start going bad when each crystal begins to go dark and chaos ensues. The fire crystal goes dark and now wildfires keep happening. The water crystal goes dark and severe storms occur. The earth crystal goes dark and crops start to fail, and the wind goes dark and hurricanes are a normal thing. When the final crystal goes dark, a prophecy emerges that 4 heroes will come forth to save the day. You are those 4 heroes of light. Each hero has a part of one of the crystals within them, and it's with this power that they have a chance of stopping the cause of this mess. They start in the small town of Corneria, where they fight some of the monsters before finding Garland. He is a tyrant that the heroes bring down in order to continue their journey. They learn that the crystals have gone dark because 4 elemental spirits have been sucking the power from these crystals to make themselves stronger. The 4 heroes help out lots of people, fight pirates and monsters, and explore countless places in order to become stronger and get better equipment. Will they succeed and bring peace to the world? Only if you level up enough. Final Fantasy is a genre of game called a JRPG, Japanese role-playing game, and this game, along with Dragon Quest, started this whole genre. These two set up a lot of the rules and the tropes that are used in later RPGs, but they are a little bit raw and unpolished. In this game, you walk from town to town, exploring the countryside, caves, and water structures, all on your journey to stop the 4 fiends. Whenever you aren't in a town, you can encounter enemies. It is all based on random encounters, and they are the bane of any people that play RPGs existence. Every step you take, there's a chance to randomly enter a fight. After you win, the next step you take also has a chance of randomly entering a fight. Because this is a random event, it can be incredibly frustrating traveling from one place to another. If you just get some bad RNG, every step you take can be a fight, whereas if you're blessed by the RNG gods, you can walk the entire way and not have any problems. This is incredibly frustrating, and it took decades to fix this problem. As this game is all about battling and getting stronger, it's great that they throw a lot of fights your way to level up in order to defeat the bosses, but when you are finished with a boss and you have to travel from that location to the next and your party's low on health because you just fought a boss, and then your healing items start running low and your MP starts running low, it can be very, very annoying at how relentless this random battle thing could be. As I mentioned, you need to level up quite a bit in this game in order to take out a lot of the bosses and tougher enemies, and that means grinding. It isn't an RPG if you don't have to grind! This was a cheap way for a game creator to extend the game, but the negative side of things is that it can be pretty boring, and it does turn a lot of people off this genre. But one amazing and innovating thing that this game did was that the 4 heroes at the start of the game are not set in stone. You have a great number of classes to choose from, which adds so much replayability. Seeing if you can finish the game with a certain group of classes to add extra challenge, or just see how the other ones play. Of the 6 classes, we have Knights, which are the strongest fighters and good HP. Monks, which are unarmed with high damage as well as good HP. Thieves, which have high speed. Then there is a white mage who uses holy magic and is good for healing. A black mage which uses elemental magic to cause damage. And lastly, a red mage who is a jack of all trades but master of none. The red mage can use both white and black magic but not the best magics, and can use weapons but not the best weapons. This makes the red mage useful in every situation but never the strongest person on your team. About halfway through the game, all the characters go through an upgrade to make them all stronger and change to the next class. This keeps the game fresh and you feel like progression as you're traveling through this world. The story for this game is simple and yet complex at the same time. While saving each town from the elementals and the crystals from going dark isn't too complex, by the end of the game it just goes batshit crazy. I'm going to say jump ahead to whatever I put here if you don't want spoilers for the end of this game, otherwise you've been warned. So by the end of the game, after you kill all the elementals and save the world, you are flung back in time 2,000 years. It is here that you find Garland, the guy that you killed at the beginning of the game, who actually created the elementals in this time in order to help him rule the world in the present. When they find him in the present, they recognize who he is and send him back in time in order for him to create them again, and in doing so, he becomes Chaos. It is a predetermined time loop that is destined to happen all the time. As the heroes, you travel back and you kill Chaos in his final form before he has a chance to create the elementals, thus causing the loop to close. You are then flung back to the present, but due to the fact that there were never any elementals to make the crystals go dark, present is changed. Now that means everything you did in the game was erased and all the people that you saved and helped along the way are gone, replaced in this new timeline. Why would they do that? Create this epic fantasy and story where you feel part of the world only for them to say, nope, what you did was pointless, but you did save the world. One thing that the Final Fantasy series is famous for is its soundtrack. This game has some incredible songs by the great composer Nobuo Uematsu, which I'm pretty sure I pronounced wrong, but I gave it my best shot. Some of the songs created for this game have been remixed and reused in later Final Fantasy games, as well as other projects by Square. Songs like the opening prelude and the battle fanfare have been used in countless games since. Honestly, if you ever get a chance to listen to some Final Fantasy music, I would really recommend doing that. Just go online and type the best Final Fantasy songs on YouTube and you'll get some great compilations. This game got a remake in 2004 for the Game Boy Advance. This remake improved the graphics to fit the Game Boy, fixed up some of the text to have better English, and changed a lot of the bugs. They also changed a lot of the stats in the game to make the overall game a little easier, but the bosses slightly harder. They also added a bonus dungeon that was filled with hard bosses that were from different Final Fantasy games. Completing these dungeons earned new spells and items, but they were just for an optional challenge. The original Final Fantasy is one hell of a mixed bag. It was groundbreaking when it first came out, but today it might feel a little bit dated. I would say in my opinion that this game is worth it. This game has so much going for it. It has so many good things that definitely outweigh the bad. This game is fun and inventive with a very deep battling system for something that was released first in the RPG line, and a very vast world to explore, which is very fun. One of the biggest flaws are the random battles, and a lot of modern gamers will be turned off from this, but I would say get over it. It's a fun game and just live with the random battles. If anything, I would recommend the remake on the GBA for the updated graphics and the extra bonus dungeon, though the original on the NES is still amazing. Because of the popularity of this game, it set Square up to make a sequel, and another one, and another one, and another one. Now we have about 20,000 Final Fantasy games. Square always wants to try new things in their games, which keeps the series fresh, but also turns off a few people when they like one particular game or one particular style, and then they change it for the next one. This juggernaut of a series has spawned so many spin-offs in a multitude of genres, including fighting games, RPG games, and even direct sequels to previous games like 10-2 or 13-2. Not only that, but they also produced a movie which we will be looking at next week in our Final Fantasy trilogy. Bye!